Falcons at Cowboys. Of course, we're going to build a lineup around these ideas at the end, but Dallas is currently a 9.5-point home favorite per FanDuel Sportsbook. The Sharps appear to be laying a decent amount on the points, though, Reeves. 79% of the money, 54% of the betting tickets. Sharps are also all over the over in this one. So what are your thoughts on this overall?
Yeah, I mean, this is the highest game total on the board, so it's going to be really popular to gravitate towards, even though with what just happened to the Cowboys. I mean, it's not like the older days of DFS, right? Like, people are on these spots still. Like, a lot of people would say, you know what, the Cowboys are terrible. I'm going to be off them again. And maybe they have a Chiefs like run, but until like it starts to mount and be like a larger sample, this is an easy game to say a one-off. You had Dak coming back from injury. You're facing a moderately good defense in the Broncos, and Dak was just off the whole game. So you just say, all right, it's a one-off. We're gonna go back to the well. They've got a 32-point team total. They're facing an Atlanta Falcons defense that is completely horrible. They can't really rush the passer with 4 like the Broncos can. I mean, the Broncos didn't blitz Dak Prescott. They blitzed him on just 14% of his dropbacks last week, but they were able to get home with 4. The Falcons can't do that. I mean, this is a team that has to blitz to generate pressure, and they've actually stopped blitzing because Dean Pease has come out and said, we're not getting home when I blitz, so like I'm going to stop blitzing. He actually had a quote that said like, I'm going to stop blitzing because it's like it is DNA to want to blitz. So they're not going to be able to get him. They're last in the NFL in sacks with just 11. So we just need Dak, the accuracy to come back, him to feel comfortable, him to get into a rhythm. Like Dak a lot against that Falcons defense. It's interesting because they get Michael Gallup back this week. For sure this week, this time. It's definitely happening.
It's definitely happening. Can confirm. Yeah.
The timing of Gallup's return paired with the injury of Blake Jarwin is actually a good thing. The timing of it couldn't be better because up until last week, the Cowboys were running 12 personnel at the 5th highest rate in the NFL at 32% of the time. With Jarwin out the first game, Dalton Schultz became a full-time player. And they played 11 personnel, 82% of the snaps, a season high rate. So Gallup coming back with Jarwin exiting the lineup actually doesn't make us have to really kind of try to figure out what exactly is going to happen here. Now we'll have to wait till Jarwin comes back and figure out how the puzzle all fits together. Mm-hmm. So we've got a couple weeks of runway with that, and we've got Michael Gallup at a really cheap price if he's going to be on the field for 80% of the snaps and maybe 70+% of the dropbacks against this Falcons defense. So he's pretty interesting, I think. Definitely harder to diagnose what we're going to get out of Amari Cooper, probably the most of all the guys, because he's been the most volatile of the wide receivers, even though there's been some volatility with CeeDee Lamb as well.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, does Gallup affect Amari or CeeDee more, you think, on the outside?
So in week 1, the end in his rookie year, it was CeeDee Lamb, right? So in week 1, CeeDee Lamb was basically, a part-time player in the sense of when they went two wide receiver sets, Gallup was outside. And then Lamb was coming in when they went 3 wide receiver sets, even though he wasn't locked into that slot role. But then once Gallup exited, he basically has played every single dropback since. So it could be a situation where we see when they go 2 wide receivers, it is Gallup. But like I just said, they were in 3 wide receiver sets 82% of the time, losing Jarwin. And they don't have Jarwin. And they don't really have a good backup tight end. So I would imagine the signal is they're going to be in a lot of 11 personnel. So the overall impact for this at least stretch while Jarwin is out is pretty minimal. Like these 3 guys are going to be on the field unless maybe they're up by a ton, right? And like they're going to just like grind out the clock and do things like that. But I think their base offensive set is going to be in 11 personnel. You look at Cooper, he has had 3 or fewer catches now in 5 of his 8 games. So he's been the guy that's like, because he's gotten there like touchdowns a couple times, but the consistency of catches weren't even there when Gallup was out. So a lot of volatility, I think, with Cooper. A lot of people have been talking about AJ Terrell on the Falcons side and the year he's having. He doesn't move. He plays 85% of his snaps at the left cornerback position. So we don't have to worry about him shadowing anybody or anything really worried about that. If you were just to look at the base rate of where these Cowboys wide receivers are lining up, it would favor Lamb the most to be away from. But with Gallup coming back, I don't really think we can really stock any of the alignment stuff that we've seen so far with the Cowboys wide receivers, because we've seen while Lamb's been on the roster, they want to play Lamb in the slot a little bit more than the other guys, although Cooper would benefit the most from when you look at his career splits from playing in the slot, but that hasn't really happened yet. And then also, don't forget, Ezekiel Elliott still plays the Cowboys too.
Right.
He's been running a little bit cold. We talked about it last week, so if you look at the Cowboys, when they're in negative game script, we have a huge sample now. Not a huge sample, but a big signal of when the Cowboys are in negative game script, Tony Pollard does not play. If you look at Ezekiel Elliott's, share of backfield touches in the 3 games that Dallas has trailed throughout, those are the 3 highest games in Ezekiel Elliott's in terms of share of backfield touches. So Tony Pollard's not really a problem unless they're able to stay ahead in neutral game script, and they're huge favorites. But we thought that last week too, and it ended up happening again. So we get Zeke. Atlanta's been pretty decent against running backs, 3.9 yards per carry to running backs. That's 9th in the NFL, but they're 21st in touchdowns allowed to the position. They're also giving up a lot of receptions to the position, which Zeke has been more involved in 2 of the past 3 games, catching the ball out of the backfield as well. So that's kind of the Cowboy side. There it is right there. The Atlanta side, I think, is super easy because we have Matt Ryan and he's playing well. And, there's no Lamar Jackson on the slate. We potentially might not have Kyler Murray on the slate. Patrick Mahomes is on Sunday night. So there is an inroad to not have, some of those alpha dual threat quarterbacks off the board to maybe play a pure pocket passer that's cheaper. Typically on FanDuel, we don't for those reasons because Matt Ryan's probably a guy that's not going to often get you 30. I think got 30 last week. But, this defense that the Cowboys, we've been talking about it all year. When they finally stop getting turnovers, like you're going to start to see points scored on them. And They had multiple turnovers in every game except for the past 2. And you see, because they're giving up a ton of yards per play. And they were consistently throughout the course of the entire season. They're now 25th in yards allowed per pass attempt, 20th in touchdown rate to opposing quarterbacks, 20th in passing points allowed. So Matt Ryan is on the board here if you want to save, if you need to save that money, if you can't get to Dak Prescott. And, the only 2 Falcons we care about playing on offense with him are Cordell Patterson, who not only has replaced Mike Davis, but has kind of replaced Calvin Ridley as well. He's kind of doing everything. We talked about him a couple weeks ago, playing all over the field. And then Kyle Pitts, who they're also playing all over the field. We saw Kyle Pitts 2 weeks ago after the game talk about how he was defended by Stephon Gilmore and the Carolina Panthers and seeing more DB coverage. So what did Atlanta do last week? They came back and he only lined up outside wide for 10 snaps, his fewest in a game this season. So they know that they need to move him around and do things. He did leave a huge play outside on the board last week.
Saw that.
He roasted Marshawn Lattimore. But he played 15 snaps in line last week, which is most since week 3. So this is a coaching staff that is cognizant with 2 chess piece type players of not just using them one-dimensionally. We've seen that with Cordell Patterson and now Kyle Pitts. And it gives us some faith, at least in this coaching staff, to be able to put them in advantageous positions.
Yeah, what I was just looking at in the sim, so runthesims.com/Holka, you'll get access to all of this stuff. The 2 guys from this game that are actually standing out the most, Kyle Pitts, 10% of the optimal lineups, and then actually Zeke at 13%. I don't see a ton of the passing game in this one, Reeves, and that makes me nervous because I want to go back to this really bad. It didn't work out last week, but the ownership was great across the board and even probably is going to be just as good this week. So that's my biggest concern. But let's go ahead and before we build a lineup around this game stack, I want everyone to go out there, pause this video, and I want you guys to let me know in the comments how you would stack this Atlanta and Dallas game in DFS this week. Reeves, we will be doing a lineup for each of these games, and then you're going to get to choose which one goes into the listener league. So if we were going to stack up this Dallas and Atlanta game, how are we going to start this? We going Dak side or we going Ryan side?
I mean, I want to go Dak side.
I'm on board.
Yeah, I mean, I have no real problem with it because, and we will see if we have money enough. We need to go to the other side, but I mean, obviously Dak offers the huge ceiling, right? And that's
my biggest question with Dak is, do we want to fade Zeke on this team then just by default?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think that's the play. I think that's the move. So we'll definitely go Prescott. Now the question with Prescott is now who are we going to pair him with?
Right. Yeah. So a guy we didn't even talk about yet, who I really like, is Dalton Schultz. Yeah. So I don't know. I think
if we play Schultz, we can't play Pitts.
That's true. Yeah. So we probably have to bring Cordero back on the other side of that. So I think there's 2 decisions here: who we want to bring it back with, number 1, and I guess if we want to try and jam in the tight end just to kind of get rid of that in the stack. But I'll leave that up to you.
I want to play Pitts.
All right. So Pitts is in there. So Dalton Schultz.
I don't really think traditional DVOA stuff applies to Pitts because he does so many different things. I mean, Dallas is dead last in DVOA against tight ends. It might not apply to him. And Pitts in tournaments though, he's the highest priced tight end, so maybe people just skip him over for that. But also, he's got the highest ADOT of any tight end in the league. So we're talking if he's gonna get there, and this dude only has 1 touchdown. he's gonna get some.
That's going to happen eventually, for sure. All right.
Uh,
So after we kind of go through this part of it, I think we just kind of have to decide if we want to take a chance on Michael Gallup. That's going to make the rest of this lineup a lot easier. That's for sure. And then basically pick between who we want on Amari versus CD.
I do. I think I want to roll the dice on Gallup.
Okay.
Because I feel like people aren't going to really want to play him because he's coming off injury, and that's a good reason. But this is a tournament team, and he's 5'5", and like I said, I believe they're going to be in 11 personnel as a base offense.
Okay.
So if he's going to be on the field for 80% of the snaps at 5'5", and we already have Dak Prescott, that's probably our way to be kind of unique, right?
Yeah, I think we have to double this one though. So do you have an Amari versus CD take?
I mean, like I said, I just think that there's been like Cooper's shown to have the way like lower catch floor.
Agreed.
So I mean, I would lean towards CeeDee Lamb, even without factoring in the alignment stuff, which, like I said, I'm not really considering this week with them having Gallup coming back.
All right, so the people are going to want us to fill this thing out, Reeves. So to try and keep this the most tactical as possible, let's try and fly through how we would fill this out. We still have a good amount of salary. So this stack, obviously having Michael Gallup in it really helps us out a ton. So is there, I guess, do we want to go to some of these really cheap running backs? Obviously, there's a couple available that are going to be pretty chalky, but I'll let you kind of help us along here as we go.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to pick your brain on this particular slate because this is the first slate I think we've had through 10 weeks where we have like an abundance of like really cheap, chalky running backs.
Yeah.
And I was going to pick your brain on how we were going to approach that this week because
Well,
I really haven't grasped it yet. Like, I've been building lineups and like how much James Conner are people going to have? How much Ernest Johnson? If Devin Singletary plays without Zach Moss, how much do we see him get rostered? Because the other thing is we have really good expensive running backs.
True.
Najee Harris is playing Detroit. Dalvin Cook is playing the Chargers.
JT.
Jonathan Taylor is like. So we have like a really weird mix where we haven't had this at the running back position to this point in the season, which has been refreshing because we've had flatter ownership and different ways to get there this year. But this slate, I mean, we've got decisions to make at the running back position. I don't usually like to roster this many running backs as the better on the board.
Well, I mean, we don't have to. I'll say this. I'm on the side of my first instincts are telling me that Singletary is a trap. I understand that he's going to project really well across the industry. I think Ernest Johnson is a way better play. So that's who I threw into this team. We can talk through this a little bit more in a couple of the other games also, Reeb. So is there a de facto cheaper defense that you like? Like all the way down here, I think that Green Bay at 3,900 is interesting, but below that, maybe the Chargers against Minnesota. We just hope that there's more passing on the Minnesota side in that game. I don't love that, but I think that this team's still in pretty good shape salary-wise, so I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, I think like starting from mid-range down, I mean, I would be looking at, the Titans.
Yeah.
The Titans at 4,100, the Panthers at 3,600 because, we still have Kyler and Hopkins still in limbo. It's Thursday and they still haven't practiced. And Carolina, if you look at their game log on FanDuel, like they get points. So at 3,600, they're going to get some. So I don't mind that. I think they're probably as low as I would go on a defense. I don't hate the Packers either because, even when Russ was in, they were giving up lots of sacks. They were taking lots of sacks. But, I mean, Green Bay is coming in. We're going to talk about the Green Bay game. But Green Bay is entering this game with, like, no healthy cornerbacks.
Yeah.
So,
I
think they're tough.
If anyone's watching this video later, definitely check out the video that just went up. Also, going through that Packers and Seahawks game in a little bit more depth here. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in Najee to this team. And so as of right now, we got the Ernest Johnson, we got Najee Harris, we got our main stack, and we still have 6,400 the rest of the way for a wide receiver and a flex in this spot. Do you think we try and jam in one more running back and then see where we're at? We can probably still play one of these higher price guys, maybe not quite all the way up to like JT, but we could probably add to the stack if we wanted to go Zeke. We could probably play James Conner at 7K. He's a lot more expensive on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings, so I'll see what that leads us first. If we go James Conner, that leaves us with 5,900 at our last wide receiver slot. So definitely going down significantly more. Kind of gets us to like that Elijah Moore tier. Do you have any interest in Elijah Moore at 5,700, running it back with him?
I do not.
Okay, who's your guy down here then?
It's for a couple reasons for Elijah Moore. One, obviously Corey Davis is going to be back. Two, the game script in that game. And then he's still kind of playing out of position. So, like, I just don't know how static it's going to be, like, what he put up. I would love to see it because I love Elijah Moore.
Do you want to move down to get I guess up to a better wide receiver range? Because 5,900 isn't the best.
What if we, instead of Najee, we go Dalvin Cook? What does that give us? What can we do if we go that route?
I mean, that gives us a lot more. You're right, man. That's a huge difference in salary with Cook and Najee this week. So that gets us to 6,800. So we're looking at DJ Moore, Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton, Emmanuel Sanders, Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith. Much better range for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Jeudy is solid there without a salary. So I think if I was building this team, and I guess I technically am.
Technically, yeah.
And, I don't want to spoil the next thing, but I think I would go down to either Panthers D here then and go up to Big Mike Williams with Dalvin.
Oh, baby. All right, let's do that. We're going to get Big Mike in here.